in integrated public transport system is also linked to that. The issue then here, as a concluding point, is that we require those. These are enablers. These are foundations for a vibrant provincial economy. If we were to focus on these areas as strategic actions, which we must integrate in our provincial plan. Professor Zondi spoke about planning. MEC Consul spoke about alignment in planning, which means these strategic actions must be translated into ATPs of departments and therefore be monitored, as these are enablers of a vibrant and therefore an inclusive economy. That's strategic action number one. The second one, before the last one, regards local government capacity. We spoke about local government capacity. It is important. Local government is at the core phase of delivery. It's where everything is happening. It's where the business of humankind is. That capacity within a unitary state with 3 spheres needs to be strengthened. I guess the issue around DDM is also influenced by that thinking that we need capacity, intellectual capability, and skills at the level where development needs to be fast-tracked. I know we still have bigger issues in the public service around ensuring that the right skills are at the right place at the right time, and that the right place is the local government sphere, and therefore they need to move towards more decentralization, a framework for government work in particular. But capacity, I think, is skills, is intellectual capability, which needs to be strengthened. Those areas would need to be looked at to drive and manage urbanization. Another issue, importantly, is the stakeholder management, which was raised even then, and the public participation, which needs to be looked at, as that is capacity to support and drive development and therefore manage urbanization. The last one was on macroeconomic policy and strategic action from those resolutions. Private sector investment promotion targeting major cities and secondary towns needs to be facilitated. Small towns development program was mentioned at that point as well. Promote economic development in rural areas. We've received some progress reports around those areas and emphasize on our competitive and comparative advantage around agricultural production, agrarian reform for the Eastern Cape in particular, and other parts of the continent needs to be looked at. I want to land, Honorable Deputy Speaker, on few provocations now. I think this is about taking Eastern Cape as a case for driving the CPA resolution. If we were to come back home and say, what do we do about these urbanization resolutions? These are some of the thoughts, maybe provocations if we want, and I'll be more pragmatic in dealing with them as I conclude, Honorable Chairperson. Public and private sector organizations need to use available evidence which comes through research, Honorable Deputy Speaker. That research is already funded. Advanced research, NRF allocates money for doctoral students, master's students, for post-doctoral research to happen. Government already invested at national level on research. That evidence needs to be pooled to inform planning and policy making at national, provincial, and local level. We need to find a strong mechanism to drive that, so that the little fiscus or the declining fiscus at the disposal of government is not then utilized to do research by government departments, because that research and those institutions were established for that. The second point, provincial treasury to use government budgeting as a tool to harmonize planning. There is strength in the function of a treasury in terms of ensuring and directing policy priorities. That strength should be utilized to ensure that there is harmonized planning and no problem about alignment of plans. We use that strength, but then you need a methodology to do that. Thirdly, COCTA needs to invest on introduction of academic programs that generate skills in secondary urbanization, urban development and management in the Eastern Cape. The point I can just make there, as I conclude, Honorable Speaker, is that Something odd needs to be looked at. Neither of the four universities that are based in Eastern Cape has an urban and regional planning competence in them. One views that as a weakness, something that needs to be attended. This province is understood to be an intellectual hub, but we also understand that this was not by default. It was deliberate. It is about time that we reclaim the space of influencing the spatial transformation agenda of the country. One of the universities, therefore, need to be supported to create, alongside its built environment capability, an urban and town planning competency. We are in the United States, but we need that because there are philosophies that underpin the provision of those programs. Like in our case, we deal with decoloniality, not just planning for its own sake, but planning in the context of urban and rural, and deconstruction the philosophies underpinning planning for what we want to be. Because we talk about movement of people. People move with cultures, move with their being to those cities. They find themselves as foreigners in cities of their own, in their own land. We need to deconstruct the philosophies themselves. So Eastern Cape needs to rise to this area. There's a focus. This is the last slide. We may want also to say, moving forward, with also the Premier NRF and XF, we established a chair based in the Eastern Cape for spatial transformation and inclusive development. Maybe the second last one would be with COPTA, with Development of Population and Infrastructure and Development Overall Development. Secure or foster a public-private partnership for strategic land resources, assembly, holding, servicing, and release. We need to capture the land and its value, the provincial land, the whole landscape, assess land resources that can be utilized or directed for certain high impact and system-wide impact developments. Deal with the landscape in its totality at a provincial special planning level. And perhaps the last one is that Human Settlement is doing a great job with this work around social infrastructure, like your community halls, your MPCCs. Let us utilize those MPCCs and community centers and transform them into digital hubs to address exactly issues of connectivity. Work with the existing planned and those which are underway. These are some of the provocations that one may want to pose to say, for us to take some of those resolutions forward, we may want to look into those areas as we move forward. I would love to take the time to thank you, Jefferson, and also legislator, for this opportunity to also participate in this webinar since 2020. Thank you very much. My apologies for stepping a little bit over the allocated time. I think.
Thank you very much, Prof. Mbanga. Indeed, this is very excellent exposition, very impeccable insight, and I believe that Africa is much more better with you and with this kind of knowledge. And I think, honorable members, President, we can see that poverty, unemployment, inequality, urban fragmentation distract the philosophies. It's what I can say is the deduction from the very well prepared draft resolution overview. Now, without delaying any further, let me just indicate before I invite the next speaker that by 12 o'clock, we will be changing over from where I am to the generator in the legislature. There will be a disturbance when it comes to live streaming, but those that are in Teams, we shall continue as if nothing has happened. So they will be also reconnected immediately. Maybe it will take some few minutes, but they must stay connected. Apology for that. It's a transition that we are moving towards currently. The next speaker now, which is the last speaker before we take the discussions, will be a regional perspective on the implementation of resolution taken during the webinar on urbanization and related regional programs. And that will be the representative from the regional representative for Africa, UN Habitat from Nairobi, Mr. Omar Sailor. And I think, Honorable Sir, let me invite you to address Eastern Cape, South Africa, and happy Africa Day to you. And now you can take the podium.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speakers. I hope you can hear me very well from Nairobi.
You are very audible. You are very audible.
Yes, just to let you know that how much I'm honored to be invited, to make some short presentation on our work as UN Habitat in this August Assembly. And also, as you mentioned, first of all, would like to wish, Happy Africa Day to all parliamentarians and all people in Africa. And we believe that this continent is moving well, and there's a lot we can learn from each other. So my name is Omar Sila. I'm the director of the Africa office here in UN Habitat. I'm from Senegal, and as you may know, it UN Habitat is the United Nations, focal point for urbanization, globally speaking, and human settlement. And we have a very strong collaboration with South Africa over years of time, where South Africa was championing the concept of human settlement as it's transferred in many UN resolutions. So I really want to thank as well Mr. Banda for this eloquent presentation. I don't know how much I'm going to add on this one, because he cracked the nuts, on the issue of urbanization, not only talking about South Africa, but globally speaking on the challenge we are facing. I think the perspective of my presentation is just bringing some response on those challenges he mentioned. As United Nations, how we approach this issue of urbanization, what are our tools and what are our advice to government to transform this urbanization to the engine of economic transformation. As you may see, it's not just about challenges about urbanization in Africa, but we have a lot of opportunity. If you know that cities are producing more than 70% of GDP in many countries in the world, why not African cities? Why not Cape Town? Why not Durban and others, South African cities? In terms of figures, I think Banda has spoken a bit about figures, the rapid trend of urbanization we are seeing in the world. And what is striking is Africa is the most rapidly urbanized continent now in the world. We have seen, some countries going to 4.5, 4 to 6% of urban transformation every year. And as you may see in this slide, for today we have 40% of the population living in cities. By 2030, Africa will be reaching what we call the urban transition, which means that we'll have more people living in cities than rural areas, as been mentioned by Banda in his presentation. But of course, what is worrying is the proportion of population living in informal settlement in Africa today in this rapid trend of urbanization, which means that something has to be done. I know South Africa has experienced this informality, and that is something, but regionally speaking, what are the best practices and how we can support each other, in addressing those challenges related to informality because of the lack of preparation of cities and central government to anticipate this urban growth. And how you see it here, the trends in Africa, it's clear country by country, Lagos, Nigeria, Kinshasa, DRC, Cairo, where we have now the mega port, going on, which means that we have, those population, those cities, more than 10 million population, even going to 20 million of population, with a lot of challenges in terms of traffic, in terms of pollution, but also in terms of livability for communities. This is just an idea of the future of Africa. I'm sure there's a lot of competition now going on when it comes to urban expansion in many countries in Africa. As here I have some challenges. We talk about, I hear from many presentations, talk about climate change, talk about air pollution restoration, but most importantly, some element which is coming strongly in Africa is urbanization. We cannot disconnect is the issue of humanitarian crisis and conflict, as you may see it in the Sahel region, in some part of southern part of Africa, Mozambique, in Cabo Delgado. All those flux of population are coming in cities and urban centers to look for peace and stability, but also the issue of socio-economic inequalities, as we have seen with COVID-19, which has been really accelerator of those inequalities, access to jobs, access to food now, access to water and sanitation. And this has led to social exclusion and marginalization, especially for women and others vulnerable groups. High unemployment, of course, is a concern for Africa. We have seen that every year we have 11 million of young population coming to the labor market. market. What does it mean for cities, for local authority in terms of social blanket, in terms of job creation, in terms of training, in terms of giving opportunity and hope to those communities. And now we have all the financial constraints we are seeing in cities and local government. Even we have the fiscal transfer system in many countries, which is not enough, which means that we have very innovative how we can think our financing of urban development if we want to unlock the potential we have. This is just some illustration of the vision of UN Habitat and how you engage. As you may see, I think this element comes from those conversations. Somebody talk about spatial development framework for some secondary cities in this town, which is related to spatial inequality for us, but also element of prosperity, because city is not just concrete and wall and street. It's about enjoying it, it's about getting access to equal access to opportunities. And now we have climate change that's been experienced in South Africa, and we have all those crises coming as well, I mentioned. But we try more or less to trickle down the strategy of the UN Habitat into the Africa context, because Africa has been our priority, and we talk about policy, we talk about inclusive economic development, and that way we ended up now with this new vision for us is really leveraging sustainable urbanization as a transformative power and engine for economic transformation, and look into resilience and peace and stability. That's why this is aligned directly with the Africa Vision 2063, the Africa we want, because we want to transform Africa, and cities have a key role to play. That's why one strategic objective is about enabling African cities and human settlement to become an engine for economic growth, and certainly reduce inequalities, social economic securities, and now we have environmental inequalities, but also building resilience for cities to disaster, conflict, and now disease, which is a reality from COVID. And Banda has talked about the capacity development, which is quite critical if we want our city leaders to be on top of the job. So how we engage on that as UN Habitat? So for us, these ideas of transformation, but also avoiding externalities, there are some drivers that Banda has talked about it. One is about effective national urban policy. My predecessor has talked about policy, which is fundamental, but how to have an integration and connection between those policies in a way that we can address the issue of poverty, inequality, transport system, we mentioned about it, municipal finance, housing is one element. So I'll go just some illustration of those principles. One is about national urban policy. For us, which is an instrument for visioning and fixing, the direction for cities and human settlement on how they should be, engaging in terms of transformation. And this is very important in terms of productivity and building resilience, and also connecting different dots when it comes to planning, especially national development plan. And this national urban policy provides the coordination mechanism to promote equitable urban development, because it should be cross-sectorial, approach when it comes to development, and it is rural and urban as mentioned by Banda. But most importantly is having this coordination mechanism, and is the vision which transfer from this national urban policy, in addition of its priority, in addition of developing means and coordination, is about looking the long-term perspective, how we want to build our cities and our human settlement. There's all process, need to go through participation, citizen lead process, and engagement with the various stakeholders is very important for us on the formulation of the national urban policy, and this makes it easy in terms of implementation, ownership by community. It has been proven those countries or cities have developed national urban policy without involving communities. It's always a problem when it comes to implementation. But what is important to mention is we see the connection between slum prevention, regularization, land, business services, infrastructure, legislation, financial flow, planning and regulation. All these are interconnected, to give a sense of direction to cities and municipalities when it comes to policy development. We have done a lot of work in terms of supporting a national urban policy. Of course, there's a lot of progress in Africa. We see, for example, 40 countries now has a national urban policy, whether they are in a very advanced, stage of implementation. Because as UN Habitat, as long as our mandate is concerned, we are supporting 22 countries in developing the national urban policy, and now linking into the element of investment as well, which is very important, and developing bankable projects based on the priority action, identify, by this national urban policy, and linking regional and territorial planning. Because when it comes to urbanization, it's not about looking into cities, but it's about connecting cities and rural. Because we have have these interdependencies and also in terms of value chains. So we cannot address urbanization and forget the rural areas. They have to be interconnected, and we need to have a territorial approach to these issues of development and not so concentrate on silos, which is one element we try to break, through this mechanism of national urban policy. Banda has talked about transport. I think it's one challenge that many African countries are facing on the way we address the need for transport in big cities. So of course we have seen a lot of traffic jam and a lot of pollution because we did not sort a way how you want to shape our transport system. And it's not about looking to vehicles on cars and motors. It's about looking as a function in the cities where people need to walk slowly and going to work without being bothered by traffic jam. And we talk about non-motorized transport system. We'll come back to that. This is one initiative we support in Tanzania, what we call the bus rapid transit system, which is one which is being promoted in terms of connecting one point to another one of the cities, but also making easy transport of goods and services by citizens so that they can make it easy, to get access to CBD, but at the same time avoid all those traffic jams so that, can have a huge economic, damage and impact, in any country. Here in Kenya, for example, we are facing a lot of traffic jam, and according to the World Bank, it's billions of dollars lost every year when it comes to traffic jam, because the time you're going to spend to go to job or to develop something is huge, and you cannot, catch up this time. That I talk about, this non-motorized transport system for us. City is space for everyone and not only for cars. Where you have, line for bus, you need to have a line for bicycle, you need to have a line for walker, and for people who want to run. That's why we have been working in many countries and cities on developing policy on non-motorized transport system, but also on giving opportunity to those categories to enjoy, the beauty of the cities. I heard on this presentation one element related to coastal cities. Here in Kenya, we have seen potential of the coastal cities. At the same time, those coastal cities are attracting a lot of population, which means that if you do not plan well, this coastal city is going to run into trouble. And this planning process should link what we call land and sea, because you cannot develop a value chain in terms of exploitation of marine ecosystem without linking to land in terms of infrastructure development, but also in terms of environmental protection, because all the pollution going to the ocean comes from the land and comes from the behavior of population. That's why this program is developed with European Union called Blue Economic System, and linking planning, land and sea is enhancing, the relationship between land and sea in terms of economic development, but also in terms of waste management, in terms of environmental protection, also establishing a system of data. From there, municipality will be able to take the right decision to support economic development in those particular areas. Another area which is important for us, own-source revenue. Of course, we have seen a lot of expectation and hope on the international aid. So today, we have been challenged by the international crisis in Africa. We need to find our own way of funding our development. That's why over the last 2 years since the Progress UN Habitat is pushing for own-source revenue. Many cities have potential. What is missing is the policy and the national framework and the capacity to unlock this municipal finance. On the land aspect is where developing countries have made a lot of deep grants. I think that is one area we need to work to make sure, we can get municipalities their own revenue and resources to provide services, but also improve living conditions. I know in South Africa we have a lot of experience on own-source revenue in terms of taxation system, but here in Kenya we are working with a lot of municipalities to unlock this potential. Slum upgrading, of course, this is a big need in Africa. If we see that more than 53% of population live in informal settlement, we need to have a transformative approach of the slums, and that's one area of discussion we have now in South Africa, because South Africa is preparing even a resolution in the United Nations Habitat Assembly in June on informal settlement transformation, which is the best way to transform those slums and improve living conditions, come to access to water, sanitation. But what we need to think about is the spatial dimension of it. Of course, the aspect of land planning is very important, but also the planning aspect, which is fundamental, and that way we miss the point in many countries for not being able to handle very well the planning process, because there's a spatial dimension for me, the starting point of really improving living conditions, but also avoiding and working on the prevention aspect when it comes to informal settlement. And lastly, I think we cannot talk about urbanization without talking about the link between cities and climate change in Africa. We have seen the devastating effect of climate change in many cities in Southern part of Africa. Of course, we are always saying we are not polluting, but we are paying for this, for the cost of this pollution. So should we wait until, this COP27 brought the money to us? No, we should act on it and react on it with our means by building resilience for those cities, by looking to way of engaging citizens in terms of early warning, engaging citizens in terms of adaptation, nature-based solution, restoration, and others. And that's something we have been doing in Mozambique after the cyclone either where we are supporting the reconstruction, looking now building back better concept, but also how we can build better our housing, our school, and our infrastructure, because we cannot build as we used to do it. And it has been proven that all those infrastructures cannot resist the cyclone. So now UN Habitat work is more about developing a new technology, and we have a publication going out next month, and how we can drag, drone and support, reconstruction process with some material systems that can resist the cyclone. And this has been very successful in Mozambique, and there are good practices that we can share with many countries. I know we have been in touch with Durban on the issue of resilience building and how we can support the data system, public space restoration, which is very important because it's always forgotten in our planning system, but also waste management and different sector, which is very important. So those are some elements. So what is the next step? This is the last slide, excellencies of my presentation. As I mentioned earlier, you have long protracted, collaboration with South Africa. We signed an MOU in October during the visit of our director in Johannesburg, and we were in Cape Town. And now we are in the process of designing the framework for the implementation of this MOU. But also we are supporting in many ways the integrated urban development framework. Slum transformation, I mentioned, we have a big program on safer cities that we are rolling out in Durban and even in Cape Town. We visited some site in the informal settlement, which was quite inspiring in terms of transforming, the way of thinking and also the livability of people in slums, but also to promote sustainable urbanization as a driver of peace and development, which is our motto. But I cannot finish this presentation, Mr. Speaker, without inviting you to join us in the United Nations Habitat Assembly starting from 5th to 9th of June in Nairobi, where we're going to take stock of our progress on addressing those urban issues, but also agreeing upon on key action to support municipalities and legislative body to really handle those issues of urbanization. And there's a big delegation under the DS, Department of Human Settlement coming to Nairobi, and we'll be happy to continue the conversation here in Nairobi. Again, thanks for giving me this opportunity of bringing here on the table and contribute to your discussion and advancing the work of UN Habitat. I'll be here if there are any questions before I disconnect. Back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Asante sana. That is a well-presented information, well-packaged urbanization and related regional programs, and you can see the integration of thinking and the urban planning strategies, spatial dimensions, youth integration, technology adaptation and change, and resilient building. This is what I think I can deduct from the input, but it is not for me to discuss it. There are people that are going now to take the podium as I'm going to introduce them just to tease the subjects and the presentation. Excellencies, President and members that have been connected here across Africa, South Africa, in all our provinces in the country, honorable speakers, our local municipalities, these were the experts that we invited to come and evaluate, because it's of no use to discuss issues but we don't evaluate the impact of the resolutions that we take over these platforms. Maybe they will be termed as talk shows, but I'm quite happy that also the government of the province indicated what strides they are doing when it comes to connectivity, clinics and rural schools and so on. That kind of work is quite impressive, and I think going forward to regional conferences of CPA and other platforms of the continent, this is a good story that must be shared by the delegations to those meetings so that we can build Africa that was once dreamed by our forefathers and our forebears. I'm informed that there are also clergy delegation that is here, Reverend Kamsa, from the Methodist Church of Southern Africa, from wherever you are connected in Johannesburg, you are also welcome in this platform. Honored members, we are now coming closer to the discussion, then we sum up the session, and then we close the meeting. In the list of people that I want to recognize, just to make few comments, will be the Secretary General of the Community of Nations in South Africa, who is fortunately resident in the province of the Eastern Cape himself, Mr. Abdul Alatunji. May I invite you, sir, to make your comments. I think maximum of 3 minutes would be fine to appreciate the discussion and point out at issues that you feel Africa must know, Eastern Cape and South Africa. Over to you, Mr. Alutunji. Then you will be followed by Dr. Nana Kwame Andor from Ghana, in that order. I don't know what is happening now. Mr. Abdul? If there are also people that are writing in the chat box, I'm not in a position to see the comments as of now. I'll appreciate if the technical team can reduce those inputs and then indicate to the chair and the facilitator so that we can also acknowledge them. But when we are packaging the report, we shall include whatever that has been contained. I'm now inviting the Secretary General, please, without wasting time. If it's not ready, I must be indicated by the team members as a matter of urgency so that I can usher in Dr. Nana Kwame Andor from Ghana. Mr. Sotondosha, can you please intervene? I just want to know whether these speakers are all here. But in the interim, let me invite speaker number 2, Dr. Nana Kwame Andor. Please, you can take the podium, sir, and make your input. This is a discussion time. Okay. Seemingly, I don't get a response. Still, I don't know whether they hear me. If they do, let's go straight to the speaker number 3, Mr. Dino Mohammed, a Somalia representative. You can just switch on your mic, sir, and address Africa Day, Eastern Cape. I've seen you initially.
I'm using that mic.
No, my mics are off. There is no Somalia representative still. Can I then now invite the Executive Director, Bodakai Chamber of Business, Ms. Lizelle Morris? Challenge of network where? Let's go to the next speaker, number 5, Mr. Wongama Tengela from Krisani. Can you take the podium and make your input?
Greeting, am I audible? Hello?
Yes, you can show your face and then you address us. I can
Am I
see
audible?
you are trying.
Yes, you are, sir.
But we don't hear your voice at all.
Okay.
Mr. Wongama?
Let me take this opportunity to greet the
Can you
panel,
check them?
Deputy Speaker. Let me just sum up by saying all protocol observed. I'm hoping that I'm audible.
Yes, we can hear you.
My discussion point. Okay. My discussion points are aligned with all the respective speakers. Mainly on the thematic area of the climatic changes. I'm standing here as a remote sensing scientist. In other aspects, some they call it Earth observation specialist. I want to bring a certain subject that is normally not being touched when we talk about the issue of climatic change. This is the issue of technology. What I want to bring forth is an issue of satellite imagery. Basically, part of my portfolio is to work on the Earth observation, which is to look at the Earth's physical, chemical, and biological systems using all the remote sensing technologies. What Professor Mbanga did here, he explained an unguided urbanization to try to formalize this or to bring it in context. In 2030, there will be about 7.8 billion that will be moved to the cities. In 2050, there will be about 60 million people. And this kind of urbanization will be called urbanization of the poor. The reason why it's called urbanization of the poor is because people will be moving from rural areas to the closer cities. In that context, with the problem of climatic conditions, what do we do about this? There's what we call remote sensing. Remote sensing explains El Nino and La Nina conditions. El Nino conditions in this context it refers to the surface temperatures. When the La Nina means the opposite of El Nino. So what I'm trying to advocate here is that we need to move to a point whereby we have to use remote sensing. Because remote sensing, there's the satellite that is orbiting on the atmosphere. That satellite collects all the imagery on the Earth. Every 16 days you get a different image. When it collects that kind of information, of course, remote sensing cannot tell you when it's going to be a disaster, but it can give you the patterns. It can give you the patterns. For instance, in the country, in 2015, we have a severe drought. Currently, in 2023, we are actually experiencing serious floods. It means that there's a change in El Nino and La Nina indicators. So what I'm trying to bring forth is that when these things happen, in El Nino, you get floods, you get spacing of communities, you get extreme weather conditions, you get livestock that are dying. This is affecting agriculture, this is affecting farmers. But this can be only solved when we use our technological advancements. And we must take opportunity of using remote sensing and all its Earth observation technologies. That's what I wanted to bring forth in this discussion. This is one of the things that Professor Mbanga said just before I sit down. He said that we must use available evidence research on development. This is a verified, tested, scientifically proven subject matter. That is remote sensing and GIS. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Tengela. I will now invite the Honorable Mayor of Port St. John's. I know that what we are discussing here, you've got a practical experience of the recent floods that have affected your citizens in that particular small part of the world. But we are now giving you the opportunity to address the webinar on this Africa Day. Mamutsingo, over to you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Greetings to all delegates in your webinar. Unfortunately, our network in Port St. John's has been dealing us a great deal. I've been in and out of the session, but I was able to hear some important deliberations, which I believe that Port St. John's will be able to take home and use them for the future endeavors. But it is with great pleasure, Honorable Speaker, to say thank you for inviting us and making sure that we try and make a mark on this important occasion. As Port St. John's municipality, a small municipality with 20 wards, with a mega MIG of 36 million, have 107 in all the 20. You be able to do 5 roads a year. Washed out. In Port St. John's, you can't say this. We are feeling in town only. All 20 wards are affected. But if you consider the area in town where you have, as the previous speaker has said, a town that was made for few residents, because Port St. John's was only catering for about 50 households in town. But now, because there's a lot that has happened, people are looking for employment. They are all coming to Port St. John's, to this area that is called an urban area, looking for jobs. And that ends up making them to stay even in places that are not proper for people to stay in. And it's not easy to deter that. But our main challenge is that even the system, the infrastructure itself was an infrastructure that was able to accommodate few people. So if now you have residents staying in a place that was not good for that, it creates a lot of problems. But self-fires also are another element, because you get to have landslides that are making a challenge to the roads that we are having. But the beauty of Port St. John's, which are our rivers and oceans, all the same time, they become our challenge. Because, for example, the Mzimvubu River, that is close to town, flooded day in and day out, because we believe there is getting underneath the road, and it's eating it each and every day. The cliff on the other side are having landslides. So one day you will find that Port St. John's will not be accessible. As you can see now, we have 3 spots where there have been holes in the Tat Road, literally holes that have taken place where people drugs now, because there are no drugs that can come from Tat to deliver trade, which means we are going to be faced with high prices, because the drugs now have to travel from Tata to taking that long, which means when they arrive in Port St. John's, if they have to buy something that delivered in that manner, its price will be more than the normal price taken a short distance. So living. And talking about an area which is having more than 60% unemployment rate, and then those people have to endure such chances. As we speak, more than 1,000 people were affected. Their households were affected. Their clothes damaged. Their houses fell, and the roads and bridges are a problem. As we speak, we are having the army in Port St. John's who are here to assist us on the matters that relate to those bridges. So government has to pay a lot to make sure that they take care of the infrastructure that has been damaged through the processes that are a product of climate change. So which means you spend. So I believe it's something that we need to take seriously and be proactive and try and fight it before we lose everything. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mayor, for that insight. And I think the delegates and representatives that are here from across the African continent, national government, are heeding your call and your pleas, especially the redesigning of that small town, because it is beautiful. And I think Professor Mbanga and other experts that are here will one day take a trip to come and see and join you in your redesign, reconfiguration, and re-engineering of that particular area, so that we don't lose its pristine and its beauty. Because in Africa, these are natural endowments that God has given us. Thank you very much, Mayor, for sharing that. We know that your people are suffering, but at the same time, we can still utilize the same area for a potential tourism destination, which will be compelling for people to come and see and invest even more for growth purposes. Now, I'm going to invite Honorable Phumelele Ndamase, who is also the portfolio chairperson, economic development, environment, and tourism, just to make a short input by way of making comments in this discussion. Over to you, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Program Director. To save the time, let me just observe the protocol that we have already outlined. And the only thing I can say today is Jambo Africa. Jambo Africa. I hope my Swahili is going to come back. Deputy Speaker, I have coined my commentary. Climate change is real. Climate change is real. Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, says, I quote, by polluting the oceans, not mitigating carbon dioxide emissions, and destroying our biodiversity, we are killing our planet. Let us face it. There is no planet B. There is no planet B. Program Director, we have seen with our own eyes in Eastern Cape and KZN and many more other areas devastating effects of floods in Durban and its environs. In Port St. John's, in Komani, our strong conviction is that it is the poorest who are hit harder by these bouts of hazardous weather conditions. Our strong view as the Portfolio Committee on Economic Development, Environmental Affairs and Tourism is to up the ante in our oversight processes so that extra attention on the environmental part of the department is enhanced. Program Director, we have participated fully in the climate change bill of 2022 as was introduced by Minister Chris in the National Assembly last year. In July this year, our committee will be stomping the ground in the length and breadth of the Eastern Cape province, conducting public hearings on 2 provincial bills that are specially designed to deal with climate change and its devastating effects. Program Director, as I wind down, let me make a call that says active participation in mitigating the impact of climate change is everybody's business, no spectators. George Monbiot opines, I quote, the earth is in a death spiral. It will take radical action to save us, close quote. Thank you very much.
Post this event, we are in a position to share these experiences to wider community of the province. We are now going to revert back to the Executive Director, Border Kai Chamber of Business, but it's now represented by Akona Brukwe. May I invite Sis Akona? Akucaciswanga noba nguMr or Miss, but Akona Brukwe to take the podium and make a comment on the presentations that have been made and possible any resolution that they can forward as business. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. Let me correct and say this is Mrs. Wela Brukwe, not Akona. And thank you for the opportunity from the Border-Kai Chamber of Business. I'm bringing just two of the most possible solutions in terms of business to this one, taking into account of what the city has done and the businesses within the Border-Kai. We have actually want to look at the three main aspects that can be possible solutions specifically to integrated climate change, where we are saying that resources of the public budget, promotion of incentives for a sustainable economy, and raising funds from the international projects are key to the solutions to this pandemic, which is climate change. And also promotion of a green economy plan, which encourages companies to develop sustainability actions in the city, to say, such as collecting and recycling. I would highlight and make some inputs to say the collection and recycling reduces the volume of waste in the landfills. And I believe that some of the solutions that we can bring as businesses is to support the recycling in partnership with the government. And those are the two that I can bring forth now. And I also want to believe that active participation is everybody's business. From the previous speaker, this is where I am at. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Jambo Africa, good morning. Kunjad. Thank you very much for the opportunity and the platform, for me to be able to speak to everyone, Africa this morning. It is very, very important, and it's an important occasion, for us as Africa. I wish each and every one of us happy Africa Day. It is important for Africans to really understand the effect of climate change, especially in the Eastern Cape, province where we are. We've seen the devastation, and for us to see the sufferings of our people, I think it's not something that actually, go down well with us as the community of African nations in South Africa. And I think this is something that is very, very important for us to really tackle head-on with the respective communities on the ground to see how best, we can be of assistance and to, elevate some of the problems that our people are facing. At the same time, I think it is very important for us to also understand the need for us to really take proper care of our environment and to understand that, disasters, it would never, send any signal. It happens at any given time. A typical example is just what we've just highlighted, which is what just happened, in the parts of the Eastern Cape. And I think going forward, we need to then start to see how best, we could avert some of these problems. Where we really believe that, areas that are not, habitable for our people, I think we need to make a plan, to get people off that area and see how best, when there is a disaster like this, proper, exercises that are being put in place, for people to be able to, get away from this area, evacuate themselves, because at the end of the day, the loss to life is not something that, is acceptable at all. And, the way our people are living as well, is not something that that they should be put through. So going forward, and as we celebrate Africa Day today, we must always have it at the back of our mind that our people are really in need of assistance, and whatever we can do as a society, I think we need to rally ourselves around that and make sure that we are able to, to take this through. With that said, again, I wish each and every one of us a happy Africa Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Jambo, Africa. In use of my time, I just noted briefly few areas, Deputy Speaker, and I felt let me just highlight those. Because when we talk urbanization and bringing issues of sustainability and the building of resilient cities, we're raising those within the context of an unreversible process, a phenomenon that is there in all continents, in particular our developing countries, so to speak. In it, the issue of planning, as it is said to be paramount, becomes one area that needs attention insofar as bringing in some new innovations around that area. More so given that we are so prone to disasters that are likely to cause more havoc going forward. And amongst those, the building of our capacities in ensuring that we are able to mitigate those disasters, and also ensure that responses that are termed rapid responses are in fact rapid responses that do not only ensure that we have the requisite personnel, but we also have the financing of those. The other interesting area, especially when you look at the presentation by Human Habitat, Mr. Omar, the issue of planning, that includes the sea planning part of it, that we are seeing the example of it that is drawn from Kenya, When you look at it, it is not too far from our Operation Pakisa that we've been profiling as the country. However, we have not looked at it much more strategical in terms of the issues of sustainability. And it's an area that I think we need to bring in some radical thinking around it so that there's harmony, given that the bulk of our coastline is Indian Ocean. And in all accounts, Indian Ocean is one ocean that is highly unpredictable, and it can cause a lot of problems, both at the level of navigation as well as living by the sea itself. So those are some of the things, but how do we then respond as legislators to the issues at hand? If one brings in our model of oversight, highlighting few, in fact, all of them, basically, our lawmaking, our public participation, as well as the oversight of departments on the implementation of sustainable development plans, and also the finances thereof of such implementable programs. It becomes our responsibility, therefore, to also, at the level of lawmaking, that the laws that we develop must now be much more talking in other areas that tend to be silent. Those areas that have become much more in terms of overall planning in our for our city's development, so that it also attempts to reverse the approach that we have that is much more ad hoc, where we catch up with the rapid development in the urban areas, especially the informal areas of it. So as long as our approach is ad hoc and is not too much forward planning, likelihood is we will continue to do catch up insofar as those areas of development is concerned. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Yeah, thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Although I'm going to charge you because this is very unfair on me, I would have loved to have engaged the speakers following their remarks. This has been a very highly stimulating, productive morning session that you have convened. I wish to congratulate you and the speaker there for having put together this session as a sub-branch of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, but also as a key component of the Speakers Forum, Parliament and the 9 legislatures. It is important to highlight the one prominent thing for me arising from listening is how you have not only undertaken concrete activities in line with agreed programs, but you have also ensured that you scrutinize the implementation of those decisions. Effectiveness is about doing that, having made decisions to ensure their implementation and following through in how they have been implemented and learning lessons from that. The second point I want to raise is that I like the fact that the speaker located her remarks in the observation of the pioneering spirit of the formation of the OAU, which has since become the AU, the African Union, as an expression of perhaps what Prof. Zondi called our shared aspiration as Africans to prosper, to tackle our own problems together, and to sort out their solutions together. And that underlies our relationships in whoever we relate to, whether it's the Americans, whether it's the Chinese or the Europeans. They are always drawn their attention to the reality that we are Africans and our agenda as contained in 2063. Those leaders who met to put together did it on our behalf as a continent, and therefore the parliamentary diplomacy that we conduct is aimed at achieving the goals of a better life for Africans in the south of the continent, like it is in our relationship with others in SADC and in the rest of the continent. We are proud that you've been able to do that. Focus on implementation. This is one of the weaknesses that is often referred to. But the presentation by the executive on what work is being done to implement is also quite noteworthy, and I thought I was impressed with many of its elements. I especially want to draw attention to the necessity for us harnessing universities and other institutions of higher learning to provide evidence-based solutions to the challenges we are confronted. And this is appropriate, especially because South Africa hosted a World Forum of Science last December, in which a declaration was adopted called Science for Social Justice. And I think what has been articulated here by the professors who spoke here differently was giving content and substance to the call for science to undertake justice work. And this is absolutely crucial. We are not doing this for ourselves, we're doing it for the people we lead. I also like reference to the reality that oftentimes there isn't effective planning and implementation of the 3 spheres working together, in spite of the Chapter 8 of the National Development Plan that points out the spatial justice that is necessary. Some of the challenges that were identified arise from a vulnerability that comes from the spatial injustices and problems that we already have in our country to date. And therefore, it has to be always our objective to follow through on implementation of that Chapter 8. It is one chapter that I think in the country and everywhere else has been accepted as problematizing things correctly and pointing out the solutions. And this is why I particularly like the reference by the UN Habitat Director, Omar Sila, to work that I fortunately played a role in, the integrated development framework. It's a crucial part of for a province like the Eastern Cape. We have not heard often enough about implementation of the IUDF, and it's a crucial part of the program, including other programs that were identified there. But I would have loved also that the UN Habitat Director speak to other, like reference was made to UNICEF. There is also the United Nations Disaster Risk Reduction Body, which is crucial to human settlements. And therefore, the work they do must always also be identified because, like the Honorable Deputy Minister pointed out, there are new vulnerabilities as a result of climate change and related changes. And they require us to consistently be assessing as municipal leadership, as provincial and national leadership, assessing what are the new vulnerabilities, which especially, as she said, creates difficulties for the girl child as an example. I do want to argue that, along with others, we believe the boy child is a critical part of those who suffer and are vulnerable precisely because they are little boys, and therefore their socialization is crucial and their treatment is absolutely crucial to the definition of the transformation in our, not only in our human settlements, in our educational systems, and generally in the environment in which such children grow up. It's crucial that we pay attention to the opportunities that exist and explore them sufficiently. Working as we have done concretely during this program with universities, and I support the call for the urban and regional planning chair and work in the Eastern Cape, given the universities that exist there. This is the kind of work that we shouldn't have allowed for so long to be absent in the capacity building initiative by universities. It's crucial work that we actively support, and we must together talk to those who represent us in our interaction with universities and with the department, with government broadly, so that we are able to put systems in place to realize this objective. It is crucial that in thinking about climate change and its effects, that we do not only make reference to steps for its mitigation and subsequent adaptation, but also that in the design and systems that we design human settlements, we pay particular attention to conditions that we should ensure they do not recreate the vulnerability. There is no doubt, Chairperson, that we must appreciate completely the significant reference to people with disability in the interventions by the executive, as scrutinized by yourself. It is important that our work be directed at improving the quality of life of the most destitute, the most vulnerable, because unlike others, it is not often easy for them to do what others are able to do. And so it's crucial that we keep them on the list of high priority that we deal with. It is perhaps also the work that you've done, Chairperson. It represents what I believe others in the rest of the continent, inside the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, Africa region especially, will recognize as representing the Africa we want. This is the kind of work that you have undertaken that points out the realization of the Africa we want. We need a lot more attention to that matter, even more so than perhaps we've done. I want to conclude by making reference to the strategic intentions identified early on by the Prof, that in fact, the macroeconomic strategies that are employed must be those that help along the conditions that we face most, the most critical problems, so that the macroeconomic variables that we are looking at are not just numbers, but they must be about the quality of lived experience of people without jobs, of people without opportunities to do things for themselves in human settlement areas and so on. So that such macroeconomic strategies must be meaningful practically to communities that we are building. That would be a great contribution in the work that you have contributed enormously to in this morning's session. I wish to thank you very much for the opportunity you gave us to reflect on the practice to implement resolutions of discussions that has taken place, followed through by resolutions and then their implementation. This is exactly what we are established for as legislatures, doing excellent oversight. Thank you very much, sir.
that generate skills for sustainable urban development and management within one or more of the Eastern Cape-based institutions of higher learning. Also, COGTA, Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, Dr. Da, to ensure that public-private investment for strategic land resources assemble, holding, servicing, as well as release for a wider high-impact development that meets the combination of the provincial medium to long-term development goals, which is strategic territorial planning. And I think that has been well splashed out in the presentation by various experts in this platform. And lastly, the issue of the development of human settlements, as well as DISRAC, to ensure that existing under construction and planned community centers should be used as digital hubs for ease of access to business and education information, and support the recycling programs as elucidated by the speaker representing the business to ensure clean environment and create sustainable livelihoods. Therefore, this sub-branch, Madam President, must table the report to the House, as it is going to happen, for the resolution to allow for oversight mechanism on the progress made and recommendation made by this webinar. And I think, Deputy Speaker, we will also share this in the national platform, and we believe that preparing for regional and international platforms, these reports must also flourish as the thinking bottom up from the people and the experts themselves. But we shall improve the quality of our work and make the submissions at an appropriate time. But I think I must take this opportunity once again to thank you everyone who have managed to connect through this webinar. I'm informed that the numbers have surged to more than 80 in this platform, and the number of viewership when it comes to Facebook and YouTube. And we will also make this resolution clear, and we will placate them in those platforms as well. I think, Madam President, I will now spare you the opportunity to declare this important webinar officially closed using your hammer from your side. May I therefore invite and usher you back so that we can terminate the session right at this moment. The President is not here. I think I'm competent enough to further say thank you to the honorable members of the provincial legislature for joining wherever you are. I know there's a public participation and education committees across the province, and I know others are already attending the event that we are all to join now. And I know that some are from business. They are going to their businesses. Deputy Speaker are going back to Parliament to conduct oversight. Our experts in Kenya and various parts of the continent are to rejoin the celebrations. And we are inviting you to Africa Lunch. We are prepared an African cuisine here. Unfortunately, those that are not closer to me will miss the Taste of Africa Day taste on this day. May I therefore take the opportunity to declare the session officially closed. And on this note, with this hammer, I now indicate that we have ended the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
We can show our faces wherever we are.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Thank you.
Everybody who is present here, because it will be used for Africa Book. Our Honorable MEC for Health, I didn't see you. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Where is Lazi?
Show your faces so that the communication team can take a very formidable, illustrious, long-living picture of everybody who attended. Honorable Ndabeni, I can see you. Honorable Chair, who is the treasurer of the CPA. We are now concluding. Honorable Luan, I can see you. Honorable MEC, thank you very much for your input. Members, we are now going to take Jenny to join. Look at this, comrade. African National Congress, I can see
No.
you.
Honorable.
We don't hear you, and Honorable MEC Health, you can unmute and talk.
Honorable Mkoboti is inappropriately dressed on our Deputy Speaker.
Putin Zoli, I can see you.